Hey, what's up guys, it's Apollo Uchiha here back with the next part of What If Naruto Was raised by jiraya tsunade. And before continuing this part, if you haven't, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like the content of this channel. And without further ado, let's continue with our story. The first law Jiraiya passed wasn't exactly well received, though then again, he already expected that reaction. The clan discrimination bill was a law that harshly punished those who attacked, discriminated, or ostracized anybody who belonged to a certain clan. It was painfully obvious that even if it affected all clans, the point of this law was to protect the last three remaining Uchihas from the wrath of the rest of the Konoha, particularly of those who lost somebody during the failed coup d'etat. In fact, once the news that Shisui, Itachi, and Sasuke were still alive, a mob formed headed to the Uchiha compound, where the three of them were at the moment ready to kill them and eradicate the threat of the red-eyed demons. Fortunately, the Konoha acted quickly and dispersed the mob before they could cause any harm. Jiraiya couldn't help but think that if it wasn't for Tsunade and him, similar mobs would have formed to kill Naruto. Maybe that was the reason as for why Sarutobi wanted to enact a law to stop people from even mentioning the QB. Jiraiya had a meeting with the two older Uchihas in order to discuss the future of the clan, which turned out more interesting than he had anticipated. Shisui told him about his failed role in stopping the coup and how Danzo had stolen his eye in order to obtain its brainwashing powers. But even after Jiraiya ordered Danzo's installation to be searched, he never found the eye. Naturally, Danzo denied everything. Given that Danzo has been very vocal about how they shouldn't trust the Uchihas, people weren't exactly pleased either with Jiraiya siding with the latter over the former. Jiraiya appointed Shisui, being the older at the 22, the new head of the Uchiha clan. His first action was, as expected, to resign Fugaku's banishment of Itachi. Shisui also handled most of the Uchiha clan's properties to Konoha, including the entire Konoha's Uchiha compound as a compensation for the coup, while in turn asked for a new house for them to live. Jiraiya bought them a four-story penthouse near the southern gate. They moved there as soon as possible since Shisui liked to see their new house as the symbol of a new beginning for the Uchiha clan, or what was left of it. Still, everything was far from perfect for the remaining Uchihas, especially the youngest one, Sasuke. Itachi asked, daring to enter his brother's room. Despite the door being open, Sasuke's room, while big, only had a bed, a closet, and a small bedside table. Sasuke was sitting on his bed, looking at the window. I was wondering, would you like to go train with me? In the past, Sasuke would have jumped to joy whenever Itachi mentioned training together, but now he hardly rejected or reacted. I see, you're not in the mood. So, I saw that we have almost no food yet. Wanna go to eat out? The three of us together. Once again, it was as if Sasuke didn't even hear him. Despite wanting to get Sasuke to open up to him, Itachi took the hint and decided to leave. Well, if you ever want to talk to me about anything, just tell me, okay? Itachi pleaded, hoping for an answer that never came. Itachi left Sasuke's room and went to the living room, which was rather big but looked empty due to its bare furniture. At the very least, it had a couple of couches, one of them being occupied by Shisui. So, how did it go? Any progress? The one-eyed Uchiha asked. No, still the same, but I can't blame him. How do you react when your older brother kills your father and half of your clan? Hey, don't beat yourself over it. He'll realize that you did the right thing. Right now, he needs some time alone. The coup will this and deal with these feelings. Once he gets ready, he'll open up to you. You sound really sure. Come on, Itachi, your brother worships the ground you walk on. You'll get out of this trance sooner or later. Still, I'm afraid that Sasuke will never be the same again. Nobody can go through an experience like this and remain unaffected. Things will never be like they were in the past. And that's not even taking into account the fact that almost all of the Konoha hates us now. So, we will work to make things better. Come on, Itachi, I know that what you did will left anybody scared for life, but you need to be strong. Sasuke isn't going to get any better if his brother is so sullen. And why are you so chipper? The guy who gouged out your eye got away scot-free. I think you'd be seething in rage right now. And I would be if I didn't have a date with the prettiest medic in Konoha, Shisui announced, with his mouth forming a U smile. Itachi raised an eyebrow. Shizune accepted going on a date with you? Did she lost a bet or something? Shisui crossed his arm. You know, Itachi, normally I would leave that jab unanswered, but that also means that you still have some sense of humor left, so there's maybe a hope for you. Itachi couldn't help but chuckle in response. By the way, I recently got a message from Nekoba. She accepted my proposal of moving her shop to Konoha. Really? Those are good news. Itachi replied, smiling a little. Right now, we're going to need all the possible allies. She said she was also doing it for Tamaki. That abandoned city wasn't a place for a little girl, and she even said that she might enroll Tamaki on the academy. That's even better. Sasuke definitely could use a friend like her. Now that you mention it, Sasuke never made any friends in the academy, right? Shisui asked. Sadly, no. He was more preoccupied with his ninja training and considering socializing a waste of time. That's awful. Maybe he had some friends they could have helped him deal with this crap. Itachi was pensive for a second when he suddenly realized something. Shisui? Yes. Have you ever thought in getting an eye transplant? Because I'm sure Konoha has now plenty of Sharingan that nobody's using. Shisui chuckled. Funny thing, Shizune asked me the same, and the answer is that I don't want the eye of some stranger in my face. It feels creepy. I'll wait until I recover my other eye. In the meantime, I'll manage with one eye. That may never happen. Then so be it. Link break. Hiruzen Sarutobi slowly opened his eyes. He felt very weak. No, weak wasn't the word. He felt numb, as if his brain barely noticed the rest of his body. Still, the sensation felt similar and familiar. He probably guessed that it was the work of many medicaments running through his body, as well as painkillers. Looking around, he realized that he was on a hospital bed, lying on said bed, and still sitting beside that bed was a large white-haired man glaring daggers at him. Took you long enough to wake up, old man. Jiraiya spat at him. Sarutobi could see that his former student was angry at him, though he could also discern that it was the kind of anger born of worry. Sarutobi chuckled. Is that the way to talk to your sensei and Hokage, Jiraiya? The Hokage weakly asked. It would be if you still were Hokage. Jiraiya tossed a scroll at him. You're in front of your new boss, sensei, and you tell your sons and grandchilds that you love them. Sarutobi opened the scroll and immediately recognized it was his last will. How can you have this? This was meant to unseal the moment I die. Oh, you were dead for about 3 minutes. Alright, thank Kami for our medics. Jiraiya said. Then his face morphed into a mask of fury. What the hell were you thinking sending your Anbu away and facing the Uchihas alone? It's a miracle you're still alive. Like I told Fugaku-san, I can defend myself. Other people cannot. Hiruzen replied, meeting Jiraiya's angry stare with one of his own. Speaking of which, what happened with him? Dad, his brat killed him. As so far most of the Uchihas are. Sarutobi averted his gaze and cursed inwardly. That was catastrophic, to say the least. Did at least any of the Uchiha survive? 3, as far as we know. Fugaku, 2 brats, and Shisui. And hear this, Shisui claims that he was about to use some sort of Sharingan jutsu to stop the coup before it started, but he was assaulted by Danzo and stole one of his eyes. Do you know any of this? Sarutobi sighed and looked at Jiraiya with sad eyes. Unfortunately, yes. Shisui was my trump card against the Uchihas. It would be a way to stop the coup without spilling blood. Fugaku told me that the last time Shisui was seen, he was talking with some Manbus. This confirmed my fear. I already had Danzo and his installation searched, but the eye did not appear. Danzo claims Shisui is lying. Still, I believe that after what you said, Fugaku told you, we have enough evidence for his treachery to put him out of commission. Sadly, I don't believe that the testimony of an Uchiha, especially of a dead one, will hold much weight now. We will get Danzo, but not now. Just keep a close eye on him. Sooner or later, he will make a mistake. Then we will act. I see, Jiraiya said, standing up. I better get back to the tower. I have a big-ass pile of paperwork with my name on it, and those 2 old farts of your teammates aren't going to give me the time of the day if I don't get started already. Ah, paperwork. That's something I'm definitely not going to miss. Hiruzen replied with a cheeky smile. I hope you enjoy the hospital food because you're going to stay here a long time, sensei, Jiraiya mentioned, smiling back at him. I'll pay you a visit whenever I have some spare time. Link break. The next few days were hellish for Jiraiya, between meetings, passing laws, and improving missions, relationships with the other villages, and many other duties he had now. He swore he would go crazy at any time. He could almost hear the voice of Sarutobi laughing at him from the hospital. However, this practical meeting was something he was eager to get on with. In front of him was an androgynous looking boy. Jiraiya swore it was a girl before being corrected by the boy himself, who was a similar age to Naruto. Besides him, there was a tall, muscular man completely wrapped in chains and held in place by two anbus. So, Zabuza Mochi. Jiraiya started, crossing his fingers under his chin. You're quite far away from the land of water. Since your Kobe dot on Kirigakure failed, were you trying to ruin Konoha with your luck? I have no interest in Konoha, Jiraiya. That was merely a job. Zabza replied, not losing his cool. By the way, what a surprise to see you here. My bingo book didn't say that you were back in Konoha, and as a Hokage, no less. My promotion is a recent one. I got the job before because your client put my boss out of commission, and honestly, I would have you executed right now, and your head sent out a wrapped box to Yagura for helping the Uchiha, but luckily for you, this child here might have saved your sorry ass. Ah, yes, because of his ice release, right? Yes, Kona has quite the fascination with the bloodline limits. Turns out Haku is an even better tool than I imagined. Sabuza said, chuckling. After having his brain scanned by the T, Anbu found out the boy on a tent in the outskirts of Konoha. Apparently, the boy was a survivor of the infamous bloodline purge from the water of the land of the waters, and that last of his clan, no less. The opportunity to have another bloodline limit of Konoha was just too good to pass. So the demon of the mist, your subordinates, the demon brothers, is he the demon kid or something? Jiraiya retorted, though he regretted using that nickname, given that it was exactly how some villagers refer to Naruto. It would have been had I have some more time to train him properly. Zabuza replied, you're one of the last persons I'd imagine taking care of a child, Zabuza. Haku has powers that I could have used in my goals, and I believe that you're going to do the same, right, Jiraiya? Come on, let's stop beating around the bush and tell me, what do you plan to do with him or us already? First of all, it's Hokage-sama to you, scum. Jiraiya spat, scowling at the Kiri swordsman while projectiling some killing intent. Now this is what we're going to do. From this time being, you will be sent to jail, and Haku here will attend our ninja academy. Once Haku graduates, and if there's no incident while you're there, you will be out on probation. While on probation, you will carry out missions from the village. Once I believe your debt with the village is paid, both you and Haku will be released, free of any charge, and to go wherever you please. As you can see, it's a pretty reasonable deal. Naturally, Jiraiya didn't mention that his plan relied on the possibility of Haku growing attached to Konoha and not wanting to leave with Zabuza once the swordsman's probation ends. Zabuza already guessed this, but some things are better left unsaid. But if I refuse, Zabuza tentatively asked, then you will be immediately executed and Haku will be sent to a certain acquaintance of mine which will brainwash him into an obedient drone, and once he becomes old enough, he'll be forced to have children with several women of Konoha in order to produce ice release users. Not a good alternative for either of you. But this isn't your choice, right? Jiraiya stared at Haku in the eyes. What do you say, kid? Do you want to save your pal and become a Konoha ninja? Haku was trembling. He looked at Sabusa with fearful eyes, as if looking for his approval. The demon of the mist merely nodded. Haku echoed the gesture. Yes, I'd like to become a ninja of Konoha, but please do not harm Zabuza-sama. Haku pleased. Zabuza won't receive any harm. He's going to go to prison. Well, it's hardly a pleasant place. I'm sure his reputation will keep him safe, Jiraiya said as he made a hand sign, motioning, and the Anbu took Zabuza away, and a couple of ninja entered the office. A brown-haired man that couldn't stop coughing, and a woman with long purple hair. These are Hayate Gekko and Yuga Uzuki. They volunteered to take care of you as long as you stay here. I trust you'll be fine with them. Haku looked at his new guardians, who smiled at him. Still, Haku's sadness did not disappear. He then turned back to the Hokage. Can I visit Zabuza-sama? Yes, you can, as long as your legal guardians allow it. Jiraiya was already expecting that question and had the prison visiting schedule on hand. From what I can read here, you can visit him on Tuesdays and Fridays. Visits will be up to 45 minutes. Do you have any more questions? Haku shook his head. No, that's all, Hokage-sama. If that's the case, you may as well start to get acquainted with your now legal guardians. Yuga took a step forward and grabbed Haku's hand. Come on, Haku-kun. Now we'll show you your new home. You'll love living with us. I'm sure I will, Yuga-san. Haku replied, though deep down he doubted. Link break. As Naruto walked towards the Yuga compound, part of him screamed, turned back, and returned home. He knew that the Yuga clan was among those most damaged by the coup, and they probably weren't in the mood to greet visitors. And even if they did, he wasn't sure if Hinata would want to see him. But then again, he needed to see Hinata, not because of him, but to check how she was doing and make sure that she knew he was there to support her. Seeing the compound entering his field of vision, Naruto sighed. let's get this over with. As expected, the gate was guarded by Takuma Yuga. Nara smiled upon seeing the one of few Yugas he got to know besides Hinata and her immediate family managed to survive the debacle. He went to greet the gate's sentinel. Hey Takuma, it's okay if I drop by? Naruto asked, rubbing the back of his head. The Yuga looked at him and smiled. Of course, Naruto-san. You know, you will always be welcomed here. Do you come here to see Hinata-sama? Yes, she was pretty down at the funeral, and I wanted to see how she's doing. So maybe she doesn't want to see me. Oh, I found that doubtful. Well, it sure is true that Hinata-sama is taking Hiyashi-sama's death as anybody would expect. I'm sure that seeing you would brighten her mood. Let's hope you're right, Naruto said by giving a hint of a smile. If that's the case, then I won't keep her waiting. As Naruto walked through the walls, he felt the compound was way more empty than usual. The few Yugas that ran into him often acknowledged him with a nod, but after asking him about Hinata, none of them gave him any clear answers. One of them told him that Hinata was in the main dojo training, but when he arrived there, he found it empty. Are you looking for somebody? A voice said behind him. Naruto turned around and saw another Yuga. He was the boy Hinata would often spar against. Neji was his name, or so he thought. Yeah, I'm looking for Hinata. Do you know where she is? Hinata-sama just finished her training and is now having a bath. Hinata-sama likes to spend a long time in the bathtub, so I believe it will be at least half an hour until she's presentable. Neji explained. His tone was oddly neutral. I see, Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head. Your name is Neji, right? Yes, that is correct. Did you lose somebody the night Uchiha's attack? Naruto asked. Neji raised an eyebrow, taken aback by the boy's bluntness, but then again, whenever he heard his clansmen talking about Naruto, this was one of his perks that mentioned the most. The boy made quite an impression the first time Hinata brought him to the compound. No, unless we count Hiyashi-sama, my uncle. But then again, we were never exactly close, so his loss didn't have the same effect on me as if I lost my father or family. I didn't lose anybody either. Guess that we were luckier than Hinata. Luck has nothing to do with it. It was fate. Not a front. Fate? You think Hinata dad died was meant to die? I don't think it. I know it. Neji said, sure of himself. That's a bunch of nonsense. If Hinata dad was predestined to die or something else, then he could have avoided it. You know nothing. You're not getting it. I don't mean that I knew Hiyashi-sama was going to die, but that his death was already set in motion by forces beyond our control, and there was nothing we could do to stop it or do about it. I'm not getting that either. Then allow me to use another example. Do you know about how our clans is divided? Yes, Hinata told me a bit about it, though I didn't understand that either. Naruto replied, making Neji sigh. In that case, I'll try to use the simplest terms possible. You see, in order to protect the secrets of the Byakugan, the clan is divided into two groups, the main branch and the side branch. The branch house is supposed to protect and serve the members of the main house. To ensure their obedience and protect the Byakugan, we members of the branch wear the cage bird seals. Neji pointed at the green seal on his forehead. Hey, I've been starting to study seals, Naruto eagerly said. What does your seal do? When I die, the seal will destroy my Byakugan, so my enemies of Konoha won't be able to get it from my corpse. And a main house member can use the seal, cause me an unbearable pain should he or she choose to do it. But that's horrible. Why do you allow such thing to happen? Because we can't do anything about it. You see, my father and Hiyashi-sama were twins, but since Hiyashi-sama was the older one, he got the clan here, while his brother, my father, was marked with the seal and made a leader of the branch house. That would mean that any children he had, namely me, would be fated to be part of the branch house and bear this cursed seal. Now that the night the Uchihas attacked the branch house, members such as my father were tasked with protecting the children and the elderly from the Uchiha and taking them from the compound to one of the shelters, while the main house members such as Hiyashi-sama fought against the invaders. Many main house members died that night, but almost no one from the branch member house did. Had my father been born first, he would have died in place of Hiyashi-sama. Do you understand it now? I think I do, but I don't believe in the fate crap. So are you saying that me being the Hokage has already been decided? Yes, but I wouldn't worry if I were you. Your adoptive father has recently become Hokage, and his sensei was Hokage as well. Fate seems to be smiling at you in that regard, Naruto. That's nonsense. If dad became Hokage was because he worked hard to become an awesome ninja, not because of fate crap. Believe what you want. That won't change the truth. By the way, your wait is already over, Neji said, looking at something or somebody behind Naruto. Naruto turned around and saw Hinata in her usual clothes. Naruto-kun? Hinata-sama. Naruto has come here to see you, Naji said, making a slight bow. Thank you for keeping him company, Naji-san. If you don't require anything from me anymore, I will take my leave, Naji said. Naruto nodded, and her cousin left the dojo. Now that Neji was out of the way, Naruto felt a bit more comfortable. So, Hinata, how's everything going? It's good. I'm trying to be strong. Thanks for your interest in my well-being, Naruto-kun. It means a lot to me. Hey, that's what friends are for, Naruto replied, his mouth full of foxy grin. If you want anything, you only need to ask. You being here already lifts my spirit, Hinata assured, trying to smile. So what was Neji-san talking to you about, Naruto-kun? I swear I hear a mention of the cage bird seal. Yeah, he told me about it. Why does half your clan is forced to fear it? Naruto asked. He was clearly put off by such revelation. Naruto hoped that this wouldn't make him see her or her family in a negative light. It's a tradition that has been passed from generation. That doesn't make it any more right. If I were become clan head, I would try to convince everybody to abolish it. It hadn't done nothing but create strife and misery, especially on branch house members like Neji Nisan. So that's why he looks and acts so uptight. Sadly, yes, deep down Neji Nisan is a kind and caring person, but the seal soured his spirit a bit. Back when we were little, he was the most cheerful boy around. He never stopped smiling. Well, guess what? Besides being Hokage, I will also help you become the next clan head so you can make the Hyuga better. Really? That would be great, Naruto-kun. By the way, now that your father is, no longer with us, Naruto was struggling to address the issue in a delicate way. Definitely not his fault. Who's going to be the clan head? Your mom? Hinata nodded. Yes. Fortunately, mother also shares my views regarding the cage bird seals and the division of the clan. Maybe together we can change things. Speaking of which, how is Tsunade-sama? I heard she was gravely wounded during the insurrection. Oh, she's fine. It'll take something more than a blade to gut in order to take mom out. She has to stay a couple more weeks at the hospital, but the doctor says she's fine. Hinata sighed in relief. Good to hear. I'd hate if you lose your mother. Hey, speaking of which, would you like to go with me to pay her visit? He gets bored as hell in the hospital, and I'm sure she'd love to seeing you. Hinata smiled. Of course, Naruto. Let me change first into something more appropriate. Nick break. In the outskirts of Konoha, two figures were walking through a path leading towards the ninja village. One smaller, the other an adult and a child, both redheads. One of them, the child, who wouldn't be older than 9, wore glasses. Look, Karin, the woman said, pointing into the distance. Our journey is finally over. The girl carrying adjusted her glasses and narrowed her eyes to seeing the village better. Why do you think this place will be different from the other, Mom? Karin asked. Because I know that there is an Uzumaki here. Tsunade Senju, one of the legendary Sani. She will protect us. How can she be an Uzumaki if she's named Senju? Karin asked, a bit flabbergasted, because she also has an Uzumaki blood running through her veins. Come on, once we meet her, she'll help us to set up a home in Konoha. I hope you're right, Mom. I'm tired of being on the run all the time. Link break. One of the Anbu allowed him to Once the Anbu allowed him to, Iruka entered the Hokage's office. Jiraiya was sitting on the desk reading something. You called me, Hokage-sama? The teacher asked. Yes, Iruka, please take a seat. Jiraiya made a hand motion to an empty chair in front of him. Once Iruka sat down, the son continued. You see, Iruka, I called you here because I'm about to do a rather big reform of the academic curriculum. Iruka shifted his head, feeling uneasy. I see. And how big are we talking about? Pretty big. You see, Tsunade Hime and I have been reviewing the curriculum and found it rather lacking. But before we get into that, I'd like to discuss a big discrepancy when it comes to the academic graduates. I didn't think I followed you, Kakasama. So far, the academic graduates rate is nearly 100%. Yet the true Juganin exam approval rate is just merely 33% from that 66 remaining. Only about 5 to 10% actually returned to the academy to continue their careers. The rest decided to quit and move to civilian schools. That would mean that little more than about 35% of the academy graduates actually become ninjas, which means that 65% of the resources we invest in the academy get wasted. Do you see where I'm going? Iruka, normally tan, face paled, much to his horror. He knew what Jiraiya was going to do. Please, Hokage-sama, don't cut our budget. It's small enough as it is. There are very few teachers, and we work as hard as we can do. Whoa, calm down, Iruka, Jiraiya interrupted, the panicked teacher holding his hands up in defense. Nobody mentioned budget cuts here. Just let me finish. Yes, sorry for the outburst, Hokage-sama. It was out of place. Like I said, relax. I know that you and your fellow teachers are doing your best. Now, with Tsunade-sama's help, you devised a new curriculum to make sure that the Academy graduates test will have the same approval rate as the true Genin test. Take a look, Jiraya said as he handed a folder to Iruka. Iruka spent a few minutes carefully reading the teaching plan for the each year. Turns out the Jiraya wasn't exaggerating when he was talking about big changes. He was unable to repress a couple gasps. Are you sure you want to go through this? I mean, I even agree with some of these things, like advanced chakra control, but isn't elemental jutsu too much for the academy students? Why? Naruto is currently training to master his first wind jutsu, and I believe he'll have it down by the next month. And for what he told me, Sasuke Uchiha already knows the Great Fireball. It's not the same, Hokage-sama. Sasuke Uchiha has been trained by his clan, who was one of the most powerful clan in Konoha until recently, and Naruto has been trained by both you and Tsunade. Some other kids aren't that lucky. While I appreciate your compliments, you must overestimate me, and Iruka. Jiraiya replied, crossing his fingers. Iruka raised an eyebrow, a bit confused. Listen, while it's true that I can teach Naruto many things other Jonin can't teach him and their students, what I currently taught Naruto and what the Uchihas taught Sasuke is something that any Chunin can teach. I mean, you know elemental jutsus, right? Indeed, Hokage-sama, fire and water. Then you already qualified to teach such a thing. Still, I believe you're rising the standards way too much. Of course I am. We're ninjas, in case you have forgotten. We're going to send these children to the situation in which they can potentially lose their lives. I did my best to ensure that Naruto had enough preparations to survive out there once he graduates. But now that I'm Hokage, all the village future ninjas are my responsibility, and thus they're going to be held the same standard I hold Naruto. The academy's curriculum is laughable. Seriously, all what it takes to be a ninja, 3 E-rank jutsus with a dedicated teacher, and any kid Naruto's age will be able to master them in no time. I don't know why they don't teach them until the last year. No wonder the true Genin test has such huge failure rates. While I agree with your reasoning, there is the problem of the schedule. There is no way to implement these new subjects without removing others. Then that's what we're going to do. I believe that the academy focuses too much on theory and neglects practice. While I believe that the subjects like math and geography are important, you have not just one but two subjects dedicated to explaining how chakra works, yet either including any kind of chakra control exercise, something about this subject, about the nature of genjutsu. Anyway, my plan is to implement this reform the next school year, so you may tell the news to your co-workers. Of course, Okaka-sama, I'll tell them this the next time we meet, Iruka said. Good. If that's the case, then you are dismissed. Iruka bowed his head before leaving the office. He didn't say anything in front of the Jiraiya, but wasn't looking forward to it. He knew that his co-workers would get really mad upon seeing all these ridiculous changes Jiraiya was about to put. Upon leaving the office, Iruka had the feeling that he was forgetting something important. Something important he should have told the Hokage-sama the moment he could talk to him. Link break. Shortly after Iruka left the Hokage Tower, he was approached by a black-haired Konoichi. He immediately recognized her as Tsubaki, Mizuki's fiancée. This made him realize that he didn't see Mizuki again after the silver-haired ninja decided to go into hiding. Tsubaki's worried face made Iruka realize that she shared the same worries. Of course, that was what he was forgetting about. He didn't tell Jiraiya about Mizuki. With all the chaos that followed the insurrection and how busy he was helping the village recover, he forgot about the silver-haired co-worker. Oh well, it wasn't too late. Iruka, can I talk with you? Tsubaki asked. Sure. Yeah. What do you want? Iruka asked, even though he knew the answer. It's Mizuki. It seems that he disappeared. Nobody knows anything about his whereabouts. You were the last person who saw him. Was he okay? Did the Uchihas wound him? Well, during the battle, Mizuki and I got separated. What? And why did you do such a thing? We heard some criminals attacking civilians on different streets, so we split up in order to deal with them faster. But once I was done, well, I don't know where did he go. Tsubaki's last hope of finding Mizuki slowly faded. Noticing her sorrow, the teacher decided to patch things up as best as they could. But hey, if Mizuki was dead, we would have already found his body, so I'm sure that he's somewhere out there safe and sound. I guess you're right. I'll have to keep a positive mind. It's what Mizuki would have done and wanted. Indeed it is. Remind if you need something, don't mind telling me. Yeah, thanks Iruka. Now I better go. As he watched Tsubaki leave, Iruka wondered how much of what he said was actually true. He wanted to believe that Mizuki was still alive, but if that was the case, then where the hell was he? Anyway, he wouldn't be able to answer those questions on his own. Better he go back and tell the Hokage about Mizuki. Link break. Okage-sama! An Anbu with a rabbit mask frantically said as he burst into the Okage office. Something terrible happened. Jiraya sighed. Of course, something should go bad sooner or later. First of all, calm down, and second, define terrible unless somebody died. I'm sure we can find a solution. Well, we were checking the tower and found that the scroll of seals is no longer here. Somebody must have stolen it during the coup d'etat. What? Quick, alert all the Anbus and want the available squads to look for the scroll. Yes, Okage-sama, Jiraiya groaned loudly as he took his hands to hear it. He wasn't even a month into the job and something catastrophic already happened, and in the wrong hands, that scroll could have been a dangerous weapon. While he hoped that Anbu would find it, deep down he knew that the thief was probably far away from Konoha. Link break. Far away from Konoha, Mizuki walked through a small road surrounded by forest with a scroll of seals to his back. During the case of battle, he sneaked into the very much underguarded Hokage tower and took the scroll away while the Hokage, old fool, was fighting against Uchiha. After that, leaving the easy way out of the village. He had predicted that they would take quite some time for the Konoha ninja to realize that their product and precious scroll had disappeared. Those days were all the head start he needed to avoid being captured. Looking back, Mizuki felt a ting of remorse for his action, but said ting quickly disappeared and left no last impressions. Konoha is pretty much on its deathbed. A ninja of my caliber has nothing to do with such place. As a last act of cutting ties with the village, Mizuki removed his bandana-style forehead protector and tossed it away before resuming his journey. Fortunately for Konoha and its inhabitants, the damage caused by the Uchiha coup d'etat wasn't as severe as the one caused by the QB, both in terms of human deaths and property destructions. In a few weeks, Konoha was functioning like normal, even if its forces were considerably weaker. Still, Jiraiya made an effort to make the village look strong and did not stop or even slow down the flow of mission. One of Konoha's institutions that was also back to normal was the academy. It was the beginning of a new year, and Jiraiya educational reforms were starting to take effect. Namely, the fact that quite a few students, especially those born from civilian families, found the new academy way too hard and they moved to civilian schools. Still, there were at least 3 new faces to replace some of the dropouts. Welcome back to the academy again, kids, at least those who passed last year's exams. Before we begin, we have 3 new students that moved recently to Konoha. Why don't you introduce yourself? The first one took a step forward as a girl with shoulder-length red hair, red eyes, and glasses. Hello, my name is Karin Uzumaki. I haven't been much time in Konoha, but I like this place so far and wish to be a ninja, Karin said. Hey, I'm an Uzumaki too, Naruto exclaimed, waving his hand at her. Where have you been all this time? Naruto, please don't interrupt. Iruka sternly chided. You can talk with Karin later if you wish. Now, who wants to go next? The time a girl with long brown hair took a step forward. Hi everyone, my name is Tamaki. I used to live with my grandmother on an abandoned city, but she thought it would be good for me to move here. I obviously wanted to be a ninja and, well, I love cats. Tamaki heard a dismissive snort in response. She didn't know where it came from, but many people realized it was Kiba, who looked at the girl with contempt. Without waiting for Iruka to tell him anything, the last newcomer introduced himself. Hello, my name is Hakuyuki. I come from the land of water. People like me aren't well liked there, so I'm staying in Konoha until things go better. Haku and Higao and Hayate had told him not to mention his relationship with Zabuza to people who didn't know about it already, at least for the time being. You look like nice people, and I'm eager to meet all of you. Shino raised his hands. Yes, Shino. Iruka asked, I wish to ask Haku-san something, if it's okay with that. Of course, I'm sure that Haku will be glad to answer your questions, so ask away. Still, Iruka looked at Haku for his approval. The kid silently nodded. Him? Repeated many voices in disbelief. My question does not pertain his gender. Shino clarified before adjusting his shades. You said that people like you aren't welcome in that land of water. Does that mean that you have a bloodline limit? Yes, I possess the ice release bloodline. Haku replied in a neutral tone, used to mask his inner worry. But you don't have to worry. Here in Konoha, nobody will hate you for having such abilities. Iruka reassured the girl-looking boy. Now that you have introduced yourselves, go and take a seat. Tamaki sat on an empty seat beside a boarding Shikaku. Haku took an empty seat in the first row. Karin was about to sit beside Naruto and Hinata, but something else caught her attention, namely Sasuke Uchiha's good looks. Unfortunately for her, there was an empty seat beside him. Naruto's face dropped when Karin chose to sit with his rival instead of her family. Sasuke acknowledged her Karin with a sigh. The redhead then noticed the other girl sat at Sasuke's other side. One with long pink hair was glaring daggers at her. Maybe you should try sitting somewhere else, Karin. A voice said from the upper tables. Karin turned around and saw Blanca looking at her. Well, while I can see that spurned you to sit beside Sasuke, you must know that he comes from a clan of traitors and murderers. I can't be safe being near him. I'm sure you'll be better with Naruto. He's your family, after all. Sasuke didn't seem to react to the blonde's hurt words, but the pinkets besides him surely did. Can it, Sasuke had nothing to do with coup d'etat, and you know it. Stop being such an idiot to him already. You weren't the one who lost somebody that day, and you should stop defending him, Sakura. Oh yeah, Sasuke lost his clan. Boo hoo hoo. Maybe they should have thought that before trying to take over Konoha. Enough, you two. Iruka blowed, silencing the feud girls. I'm not going to tolerate that kind of talk, okay? Yes, the Uchiha coup d'etat was a dark day in this village history, but harboring resentment won't be any help. Haku was starting to understand why he was told to keep his ties with Zabuza a secret. Tamaki, however, wasn't deterred by Ino's words. Her family had always been a staunch ally of the Uchiha clan. He would show his support to Sasuke. A good look didn't hurt either. Alright, now that we calm down, let's start. Open your ninja's books on page 3. Link break. Jiraiya was working tirelessly in his office as usual, even with the aid of a couple shadow clones. It seemed that the paperwork would never end. He really missed the amount of free time he used to have back then, which he spent either training Naruto, Hagane, and Kaide, or spending quality time with his wife. Now those moments were for scarce. Letting out a frustrated sigh, he decided to take a break was in order. Letting the clones continue the work, he opened a drawer and pulled out the as of yet unfinished draft of his next Icha Icha volume. Progress had been slow, so he better hurry up and finish this one. He had to make his loyal fan restless. However, there was something in the drawer that caught his attention. His very first novel. He grabbed it and remembered he had his godson some month ago. Flashback. Somebody knocked the door on Jiraiya's office. Come in. Jiraiya shouted. He was relieved to have a break from endless mountain of paperwork. Much to his surprise, the godson entered the office. Jiraiya's smile grew even wider. Naruto, great to see you here. Did you come here to see your old man at his new job? Naruto smiled. More or less. Well, that and that I have a few questions that I can only know you can answer. Jiraiya leaned back on his chair and crossed his finger above his lap. Well, that's what I'm here for. What kind of trouble do you have? Something wrong with the academy? With your mother? It is a girl you like? Of course it's a girl. It's not that. Naruto cut off him before he could come up with some ridiculous scenarios. He fished something out of his pockets and handed it to Jiraiya. The surprised Sani saw that it wasn't just his very first book, but the one he gave Minato as a gift. Jiraiya's expression darkened. Naruto, where did you find this? In the underground shelter, inside a box. Naruto replied. The book was so good. So much better than the stuff you write these days. Why didn't you tell me about it before? And why don't you write more books like this one? I see. To answer your question, you could say that I forgot about it. Jiraiya sighed heavily. Firstly, there's the fact that the book hardly sold. You and your father were the only ones who gave me any kind of positive feedback. People who dislike your books are morons, Naruto bluntly said. And secondly, this book reminded me of your father too much, and life he will never have, thanks to the QB and thanks to that masked bastard that nearly killed Tsunade Hime. I thought that I was over it, but after all these years, the pain still persists. I see. Sorry for bringing that up then, Naruto said, averting his gaze. Jiraiya forced himself to smile. Hey, it's okay. It's not that you knew about it. I would have done the same in your situation. By the way, what else do you saw in that box? Nothing too interesting, except a bunch of old pictures. Naruto answered, but now I'm too afraid to ask. Don't be, Jiraiya assured. What kind of pictures? Well, the ones in which you and mom were younger, and a couple of my birth parents. But then there was this one with you and 3 kids that I don't recognize. Who were they? 3 kids, a ginger and a redhead and a brunette, Jiraiya asked. Naruto nodded. Those were a trio of orphans from Amegakure that I taught ninjutsu and survival skills for 2 years, back during the Second War. What happened to them? The last time I heard from them, they formed some sort of freedom fighting group and were about to face the leader of Amegakure. I never knew anything about them after that. The poor bastards are probably buried 2 meters underground now. I see. No wonder you wanted to forget about the contents of that box. Yeah, that box is kind of like complications of my failures, isn't it? Jiraiya said, almost chuckling. That's me, the master that ends up surviving his students. But hey, if it's come of any consolation, you know that such thing won't happen to me, Naruto boldly declared. Besides, you did plenty of good things too. I mean, you're Hokage. How many people can you say that? Jiraiya couldn't help but smile at his corson's unwavering optimism. Yeah, Jiraiya's life hadn't turned out so bad, did it? He married the girl of his dreams, and they had two other kids besides Naruto, both of them who had rare bloodline limits despite neither him or Tsunade possessing any. And even if it was something that he didn't want, he was the leader of Konohagakure no Sato, his home village. You know what, Naruto? I think you have a point, the Sanin conceded. Then he looked at the book, and I think that maybe this book deserves a second chance. End of the flashback. As this is where I'm going to be leaving off this story, guys. I hope you like this one, and if you do, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. And yeah, guys, this is Apollo Uchiha, and I'm signing out. See you in the next part. Peace.